Fretboard logic. 7. Triad and caged system. A 3-note chord means building a triad on 3 strings. It is the simplest form of a chord. A triad consists of a root note, a third, and a fifth, and there are 3 ways to arrange these 3 notes. These 3 arrangements are simply root third fifth fifth root, and fifth root third. Therefore, there are only these 3 combinations for arranging 3-note chords. Placing the root note on any of the 3rd, 4th, 5th, or 6th strings allows you to form a major triad. The position marked R, root, determines the name of the chord. In the diagram, it is a C chord. The first root note is at the 8th fret of the 6th string, root 3rd, 5th. Notice it is labeled for the 6th, 5th, 4th strings or 5th, 4th, 3rd strings. If playing on the 5th, 4th, 3rd strings, we need to find the root note C on the 5th string, whereas C on the 5th string. Right here at the 3rd fret of the 5th string, so root 3rd, 5th, this is the C chord on the 5th string. Moving up 1 octave to the 15th fret, this is also a C chord, C-G, with root 3rd, 5th. Okay, next position, we need to find the root note C on the 4th string, whereas C on the 4th string. At the 10th fret of the 4th string, this is C. Hey, this shape is different from the one we used for the 6th, 5th, 4th, or 5th, 4th, 3rd strings, right? This is because of the guitar's tuning. The interval between the 2nd and 3rd strings is different from the intervals between other adjacent strings. For other strings, the interval between the 1st and 2nd strings is 5 frets, meaning the 3rd fret of the 1st string is equal to the 8th fret of the 2nd string. The same applies to the 3rd, 4th, 4th, 5th, and 5th, 6th strings. The open 3rd string equals the 5th fret of the 4th string, and the 2nd fret of the 3rd string equals the 7th fret of the 4th string. This is true for all other string pairs. But only the interval between the 2nd and 3rd strings is for frets. The open 2nd string equals the 4th fret of the 3rd string, adding for frets, so the 3rd fret of the 2nd string equals the 7th fret of the 3rd string, which is 1 fret less than the interval between other strings. So when placing this chord shape across the 2nd and 3rd strings, the notes on the 2nd and 1st strings need to be moved up by 1 fret to form this shape. You can use the original shape, you have to adjust it to this new shape. Now let's find the root note C on the 3rd string. As we mentioned earlier, the interval is 5 frets. Since C on the 4th string is at the 10th fret, C on the 3rd string is 5 frets lower at the 5th fret of the 3rd string. So the chord shape on the 3rd string becomes like this. Let's look at the same position if the root is A on the 6th string. This is an accord. If we place the root on the 5th string, note D, this is a D chord. If we place the root on the 4th string, note G, this is a G chord. And if we place the root here, note C, this is a C chord. By the same logic, we can find other notes too. For example, let's play a G chord. This is a G chord. G on the 5th string is at the 10th fret. G chord. G on the 4th string is at the 5th fret. G chord. And G on the 3rd string is at the 12th fret, also a G chord. We've covered the root 3rd, 5th shape. Now let's talk about the 3rd, 5th root shape. Isn't this just moving the root note up 1 position to make it the highest note? There's a term for this, first inversion, which is 3rd, 5th root. If we move the 3rd up as well, making the 5th the lowest note, this is called second inversion of the chord. You can learn more about inversion, it's simple. Let's take the C chord again. This time we'll focus on the 4th string. The root note on the 4th string is at the 10th fret, and the 3rd, 5th root shape looks like this. Next, find C on the 3rd string, 5th fret of the 3rd string. and C on the second string, first fret of the second string. At this point, we need to add one fret to the second string. Originally, following the previous fingering, it would be to open, right? But we add one fret to the second string to form this shape C. Isn't this part of a C chord? Alright, okay. Now let's find C on the first string. 8th fret of the first string. This forms a shape, which is the first inversion of the C chord. By the same logic, we can find other notes to this. Works for all notes. Next, look at this one. Now focus on the second string. The note on the second string is F. When we place this shape here, this is an F chord. Moving up to the third, second, first strings, check the root note on the first string, it's A, so this is an A chord. The third type is fifth root third, where the root note is placed in the middle of the three notes. Let's find a C chord. Look for the middle string of the three. The first position is at the third fret of the fifth string. This is a C chord. For the second position, we need to find C on the fourth string. C is here at this position. For the next position down, find C on the third string, fifth root third. The note is here, across the fourth, third, second strings. Further back, find C on the second string, first fret of the second string, fifth root third. Moving up one octave works too. It's still a C chord. Let's expand this. Look at this shape. We all know this is a D chord when we include the root note on the fourth string. But even without focusing on D, the note at the third fret of the second string is D, so placing this shape here is a D chord in itself. If we place it here, the note at the fifth fret of the second string is E, so this is an E chord. Play only the first, second, third strings. Since we're not pressing the fourth string, we shouldn't play it. Okay, let's place it in the same position, say the 8th fret. At this position, the note at the 8th fret of the 5th string is F, so this is an F chord. Moving down one string uniformly, check the note in the middle of the 4th string, it's B flat. So this is a B flat chord. Placing it here at the 8th fret of the 4th, 3rd, 2nd strings, check the middle note, it's E flat, so these three notes together form an E flat chord. Placing it on the 1st, 2nd, 3rd strings, the middle note is G, so this is a G chord. This is the principle behind the formation of these three chord shapes. Placing all the above shapes on the guitar fretboard forms 5 shapes: C, A, G, E, D, and this is the CAGED system. CAGED actually refers to the chord shapes of C, A, G, E, and D. Let's look at the C chord, combining 5th, root, 3rd, root, 3rd, 5th, 3rd, 5th, root, 5th, root, 3rd, forms this shape, the C chord shape. For the second position, using 2 of the 5th root 3rd notes, then adding 3rd, 5th, root, 5th root 3rd, root 3rd, 5th, forms this chord. It's also a C chord. For the next position back, starting with the root note at the 8th fret of the 6th string, root 3rd, 5th, 3rd, 5th, root, 5th, root 3rd. Then adding the subsequent 3rd, 5th root, using this 5th and root without the second string. This forms Hey. This is still a C chord. Further back, combining root, 3rd, 5th root, fifth, root third, fifth also forms a C chord. Now look at this C chord at the 13th fret. Adding a C at the 10th fret of the 4th string forms this shape. It's also a C chord. This is its 5th, and it's still a C chord. So this is how we summarize the 5 shapes. C shape, a shape, G shape, E shape, and D shape. Now let's explain why they're named this way. This shape is the C chord shape, so it's called the C shape. When we move the same shape backward, we no longer use the open strings. If we press down here to cap the strings, it's still the same shape. Placing it here makes it a D chord. Placing it here makes it an E chord. Okay, this is a C chord, but why is it called the A shape? Because it's the A chord. Shape shifted up by 3 frets shifted to the 3rd fret, so it becomes a C chord, and we call it the A shape. And this one, this is actually the G chord shape, right? Shifting it up by 5 frets forms this C chord. The same logic applies to the E shape. The 8th fret is where the E chord shape is shifted up to the 8th fret, turning it into a C chord. The D chord shape works the same way. Moving the D chord shape through E, F, G, A, B, C. This is how these shapes get their origins. So they appear cyclically on the fretboard. When we move uniformly left or right on the fretboard, the position marked our root is the root note's position, which tells us which chord we're playing. So when we look for a chord, we just place the root note position on a specific note, and that becomes the desired chord. For example, to find an E chord, the root note of the E chord in the C shape is on the 5th string, so we find E on the 5th string, press the C shape here, and this is an E chord. For the A shape, we also press on the 5th string here, and this is an E chord. For the G shape, the root note on the 6th string at E, 12th fret, this is an E chord. Then there's the E shape with its root on the 6th string. The E chord in this shape is the E chord itself. For the D shape, the D chord itself is here, but if we place it at this position, note E specifically at the 2nd fret, it becomes an E chord. If you want to transpose or quickly find a chord's position across different frets, the first thing you need to do is find the chord's root note position. First, to find the chord's root note position, you need to memorize the note names on the fretboard. Second, memorize the root note position in each shape. For example, the C shape and A shape have their roots on the 5th string. The E shape and G shape have their roots on the 6th string. The D shape has its root on the 4th string. Mastering the note names on the fretboard is the foundation for advancing your guitar skills. You can start by memorizing the 5th and 6th strings first. Of course, once you memorize the 4th string, you'll basically have it down, and then you can gradually memorize the note names for all 6 strings. As we discussed earlier, in the CAGED system, moving any shape across the fretboard allows you to get different chords. The chord you get depends on which note you place the shape's root on. So first, memorize the fretboard notes. Second, memorize where the chord's root is located, I, which string the root is on. The same chord also has 5 shapes, C, A, G, E, D. In fact, every chord has these 5 shapes. Let's take the A chord as an example and see where these 5 shapes are. First, root on the open 5th string. Second position, A on the 6th string, G shape. Then on the 6th string again, E shape. Then on the 4th string, D shape. Finally, A on the 5th string at the 12th fret, C shape. These 5 shapes connect to scales when soloing. You can also observe the correspondence between these 5 shapes and the corresponding pentatonic scales. The 5 diagrams here use the C chord as an example. This is the pentatonic scale. This pentatonic scale corresponds to the C shape. The pentatonic scale for the second position is here. All our examples now correspond to the C major pentatonic scale for the C chord. The pentatonic scale for the next position corresponds to the G shape, because both the root note and the scale's tonic are here. Next is the E shape. Then the D shape further back. In fact, these 5 shapes can also connect to the natural major scale or other scales. We'll cover this in detail later when we talk about scales. The goal of this set of practice cards isn't just to teach you the content on the cards, it's to help you understand the structure of different parts of the guitar fretboard, grasp the underlying principles, and then be able to work out other chords or scale shapes on your own. The key is to learn the principles of how they're formed. This is how we get to the essence of the subject. Besides major triads, there are many other commonly used chords, for example, minor triads, diminished triads, augmented triads, which are actually less commonly used, suspended second chords, suspended fourth chords, and so on. We can create other types of chords by altering the third or fifth of a major triad shape. These chords can also form 5 shapes on the fretboard, which can be moved cyclically. Here's an example. Take a C major triad. Changing the third to a flat third turns it into a C minor triad. If we also lower the fifth by a half step to get root flat third, flat fifth, it becomes a C diminished triad. Based on a major triad, raising the fifth turns it into an augmented triad. Changing the third to a second turns it into a suspended second chord. And changing the third to a fourth turns it into a suspended fourth chord. All of these can form the 5 shapes we discussed earlier. However, some shapes for minor triads, for example, may be unsuitable or hard to press. We can eliminate the chords that are difficult to press when working them out. By the same logic, take this C chord, 5th root third, changing it to 5th root flat third makes it a C minor chord. Changing it to flat 5th root flat third makes it a C diminished chord. Going back, raising the 5th forms this shape, an augmented triad. Going back again to 5th root third, changing the third to a second makes it a suspended second chord. And changing the third to a fourth makes it a suspended fourth chord. By altering these shapes, you can use these small shapes to form a caged system for minor triads, diminished triads, or augmented triads. You can organize all of them this way. This covers 3 note chords and the caged system.